I'm going to talk about three things. I'm going to talk about priorities. I'm going to talk about multiple lives. I'm going to talk about Jesse. Jesse. That's a loaded topic, Jesse. Priorities first. This video is for anyone. I am saying some things to people who believe Jesus. If you don't believe Jesus, then I hope you enjoy me talking to the people who do, telling them how to get it right. If you believe Jesus but you don't go to church, I applaud you. I'm going to talk to the people that go to church. And if you don't go to church, you don't believe Jesus, it'd be good for you to listen to me talk to them so that maybe you'll learn how to talk to them. That's what this is about. I'm not trying to make everybody agree with me. But there are some things that need to be said, especially to church people. I believe Jesus. I used to go to church. Okay, multiple lives. The idea that you're born more than once. Okay, Hinduism is not the inventor of reincarnation. People can believe in multiple lifetimes without believing that we come back as cows. And also without believing that you just keep coming back again and again forever, or for a really long time. The idea that you can live a life more than once and you wouldn't remember the ones before, maybe every once in a while remember a little something, that's completely separate from Hinduism. But if you talk to the Sunday people, they don't seem to know the difference. So, should the Sunday people be all upset and get their undies in a bunch when someone says, I think that I was a whatever in some previous lifetime? The Bible actually talks literally, as if there are multiple lifetimes. At the end of the Old Testament, God said, I am sending Elijah, and he will turn the hearts of the fathers to the sons and the hearts of the sons to the fathers, lest I strike the land with a decree of utter desolation. And so John the Baptist shows up 400 years later. People asked him, are you Elijah? And he said, no. John the Baptist did not say, how dare you talk as if there are multiple lifetimes? He did not say that. And so when the Sunday church people get their undies in a bunch, oh, you're talking like multiple lifetimes are not impossible. Their priorities are not the same as John the Baptist's priorities. John the Baptist did not rebuke the people for being curious about whether he was Elijah reincarnate. He didn't get his undies in a bunch about that. But the Sunday church people do. John the Baptist was focused on pointing to Jesus. Pointing to Jesus. Not the religious establishment that controlled people. Not the group of teachers that were a bunch of asses who also rode asses. Interestingly, a donkey riding a donkey. John the Baptist was not part of this wasteful establishment, wasting time and money and people's emotions, hiding numerous sex scandals. John the Baptist was not part of that, just because he pointed to the Jewish Messiah that all those donkeys and asses who rode asses believed in. They believed a Messiah was coming. That was Jewish establishment teaching. They talk about Messiah. John the Baptist talked about Messiah. Does that mean he's in their camp? No way. Just like I'm not in the camp with the people that want to waste money on Sunday buildings, just because I believe in the same Jesus they talk about. Well, I think that they believe a different Jesus than I do, because the Jesus I believe is focused on loving and redeeming, and they're focused on yelling at people for things like talking about the possibility of multiple lives. John the Baptist wasn't worried about it. People who point to Jesus shouldn't be either. John the Baptist pointed to the real Jesus, a man that so many people could get along with, and that the power mongers hated, only the power mongers. The Sunday church people are not pointing to Jesus. Whoever you are, I believe my belief system, walk inside Jesse's mind. I believe you, everyone, when we die, we will stand before Jesus and we will answer for what we did in this life. And if your answer is that you talked about Jesus, but you were never able to love, and you were never able to help other people love or help other people love the real Jesus, the Jesus you talk to when you die is not going to be happy with you. It's not about yelling at people for saying the wrong things, like Sunday church people seem to think, like their actions say they think. It's about love. What is love? It's self-sacrificial. It has a place for rules because rules keep us alive and healthy. There are rules for giving water and food to plants. You don't follow the rules, they die. Rules are good. But people who abuse rules are bad because they give a bad name to the rules. And they don't have the rules that help. The Antichrist is coming. The real Christ is returning to confront him. And if you are a Sunday church person who gets your undies in a bunch because people today talk like the people who were asking John the Baptist if he was Elijah, then you have a very weird system of fake rules. And those rules have not helped you love people. They have not helped you convince other people to believe this Jesus you talk about. And those rules you follow from Sunday morning will not help you identify the Antichrist, and you will believe him hook, line, and sinker and end up in the lake of fire. I don't want that for you. I'm warning you like a lighthouse. Lighthouses don't hate boats. They love them. So just because I tell you you're wrong and you're headed for rocks would never possibly mean that I hate you. So don't think that I do. The lighthouse isn't the bad guy. If you're a Sunday morning person and you're running around talking about Jesus and no one's believing you, you should consider that maybe you've got something wrong. And when I talk about multiple lifetimes, don't get your undies in a bunch, because John the Baptist didn't. Focus on pointing to Jesus. I believe, walk inside my mind, not being pushy at all. I never said you should. I believe that when you, whoever you are, like everyone, when we die, you will face Jesus. And the question he will ask you is, according to your life that you lived, who does your life say I am? Jesus asked his disciples, who do people say I am? Who do you say I am? Who do you say Jesus is? It's not who do you say multiple life teachers are. It's not who do you say Buddha was. Jesus will not ask who you say Buddha was or wasn't. As a Jesus believer, I believe Jesus will only ask who you say he was. Now, who do I say Jesus is? I say that Jesus is the one who taught me the lessons that the Jesse of the Old Testament never learned, and who helped me understand the lessons that the Jesse of the Old Testament did learn. That's who Jesus is to me. In other words, he helped me learn to love. So, I said that I would talk about multiple lives, I would talk about priorities, and I would talk about Jesse. Multiple lives. Really, I don't know. There are a lot of reports. The reports are not frivolous. A lot of people have memories of other lives. Some people really remind us of other people from a different life. Supposedly the way it works is some people, according to reports, it sounds like some people are able to be born and die up to about 9 times maybe. Some people only once. Bible doesn't really say anything about it. Old Testament, what does the Bible teach? Is this a Bible idea? That's an important question. If a lot of people find a lot of truth in the Bible, and they don't want to believe something if the Bible says don't believe that because they think the Bible helps them. Okay, so if that's not you, fine, but other people think that. So understand those people. So, is this a Buddhist teaching? Is this a Hindu teaching? Is this a Bible teaching? Is this a Sunday teaching? What do the teachings say about this? Well, if you're asking about the Bible, it doesn't say much either way. See, the Sunday morning people believe in the 11th and 12th commandments. The 11th commandment that if you don't go to church, then you hate Jesus. And the 12th commandment that you should never talk as if there are multiple lifetimes. Well, those aren't real commandments. Those are things they totally made up. You don't find it from the church councils, not from the church fathers, and not from Erickson, and not from Grudem, but we're not going to talk about him, and we're not from James Montgomery Boyce. And I don't think Don Carson's ever ranted against it. You're not going to find teaching against those. Priorities. Who do you say Jesus is? And how good are you at helping other people answer that question? To finish, to think about, to do their homework, to come up with a conclusion to answer that question. For me, Jesus is the one who helped me learn to love. That's for me. Now, is Jesus most high? Yup. I believe that he is the one. He's the Christ. But more importantly, who is Jesus for me? Who do my life? Well, what do I have to offer that other people don't? Anybody can say that Jesus is the Christ. For me, Jesus is the one who taught me to love. Now, a young man comes up to me over here in Taiwan, and we had some conversations, and somewhere on the line, I was telling him some semi-personal stuff, and he decided he could trust me. That happens in friendships and relationships. And so he thought that he could tell me something he can't tell other people. He said, I have memories of life before. I have a memory where I was in a pit, I was in a street gang, and I betrayed my friends. They were coming to kill me, and I jumped in a pit, and I ate the pistol and killed myself. I was 21. And I remember shooting myself and then floating up above my body and looking down at my body and being dead. I remember that like it was yesterday. Am I crazy? People say I'm crazy. Am I crazy? He says, I also had a memory that there was a man, someone, I couldn't see him. It's like he was in a shadow. I don't know who he was, but he asked me if I wanted more lives. And I said, yes. And so he said he'd give me 9. What does that mean? What does this mean? I don't know what this means. Can you tell me? Now, what am I supposed to tell him? You're evil. You're a demon-possessed devil worshiper, and you're trying to deceive people. Is that what I'm supposed to tell him? I think that's what Sunday morning people act like they'd want me to tell him. What can I tell him? Now, I believe Jesus in the Bible. So I live my life, what I believe. I follow myself. I don't contradict myself. I stay true to myself. Shakespeare. So I go to the Bible. Well, God said, I'm sending Elijah. And people asked John if he was Elijah. And John wasn't angry at him for asking. So I guess all I can tell you is if that really happened, if it's not just a dream, if it was real what you remember, then the man in the shadow was Jesus, because he is the resurrection. And if anyone can decide to give you multiple lifetimes, it would only be the one who died to give you yours. That's what I think. So I told him the important question, when you die, I believe you will face Jesus and he will ask, who do you say I am? And I'll tell you right now, maybe who you could say Jesus is Jesus was the one who gave you life. Maybe. Okay, priorities. John the Baptist, the Old Testament says he's Elijah. Literally, it says those words. Not like Elijah. It doesn't say I'm sending someone like Elijah. It doesn't say I'm sending someone in Elijah's likeness. The Bible says that Seth had Adam's likeness. The Bible knows how to say it is someone or it is similar to someone. And it didn't say, I'm sending someone similar to Elijah. It said, I'm sending Elijah. And it wasn't a psalm. It wasn't a proverb. It was a literal writing. Literally, at face value, it sounds like Elijah is coming back in the flesh. So, was John the Baptist Elijah? Well, yes and no. He did the same things. John the Baptist yelled at kings. Oh, he made people angry. He made people think. Of all the great things Elijah ever did, John the Baptist did the one thing greater. He pointed to Jesus. I said I would talk about multiple lifetimes. I would talk about priorities, and I would talk about Jesse. John the Baptist, it's possible there's multiple lifetimes there. It literally talks as if there is. Do we know? I don't know. But John the Baptist had his priorities. He did the greatest miracle. He pointed people to Jesus. And unlike the Sunday people, people believed. Very effectively. John was far more effective, John the Baptist was far more effective at helping people love Jesus and be happy that they believe Jesus and be nice, good people that other people liked because they believed Jesus. John was far more effective at this than the Sunday church people. Why? Because of priorities. He didn't get distracted with being asked if he were Elijah. In a sense, no. In a sense, yes. But that wasn't the point. The point is toward Jesus. The real Jesus. Not the fake Jesus that's used to make money for Sunday buildings so that the pastor can have a nicer office to pretend that he doesn't boast about. And same for the members that he rewards with permission to boast with him so that they feel like they've done something. I'll tell you though, multiple lifetimes, if that's true, then Sunday morning stands to lose a lot of money. What about the little boy who never heard about Jesus? Because, Christian Sunday people, they believe you got to believe Jesus or you're going to burn in hell, right? Okay, right? They believe that. Okay, so what about the little boy that never believed Jesus? Well, I don't know. I guess you better give us a lot of money so we can go find him. Right? I don't know if that's what they're thinking, but that's what their pocketbooks are thinking. See, if there are multiple lifetimes, then Jesus, the resurrection, who died for our sins, who owns your sins and your past and your future and your past, is allowed to say, hey, little boy who never heard about me, for not hearing about me, you did pretty well. Adam got 900 years. You didn't even get 90. You want another go? You won't remember, but maybe your heart will be better because you learned, and you'll be in different circumstances where you'll be able to hear me, and then we'll find out if you'll believe it or not. You want another go at it? Jesus says, the Bible never says Jesus can't do that. And if Jesus can do that, then guess what? We don't have to dangle hell over people's heads. We don't have to say, oh, that boy's going to burn forever because you didn't make the church nicer. And there's a lot of money to be lost if Jesus is allowed to give people multiple lifetimes, being that he is the resurrection and the life. So I got to ask, the people who really get angry about a Christian belief in multiple lifetimes from Jesus, the resurrection and the life, are those people emotionally and or financially vested in a church building? Because if they are, then they have a conflict of interest. I said I'd talk about three things: multiple lives, priorities, and Jesse. I've kind of circled around those first two a lot. Jesse. I have this strong conviction, like God is lovingly towering over me, saying, you shall believe that you are Jesse of the Old Testament, King David's father. You shall believe this. I feel that. I have no reason to believe it's true. I have no memories of some past lifetime like other people might. But for a long time, God's been telling me to introduce myself merely as Jesse. Who are you? I am Jesse. I've been supposed to say those words. I've been supposed to say those words. I never knew really what they meant. When I was about 10 years old, I was reading Romans 15:12, and and it said from the root of Jesse, and he who rises to rule the Gentiles, and him will the Gentiles hope. I looked at that and just this thing hit me. That's talking about you, Jesse, not your classmate Jesse or any other Jesse. That's you, Jesse. Really? No, that can't be true, I thought. I was going to ask my mother what she thought. She studied Bible in her college. But I like, nah, my mom will tell me I'm crazy. I already know what she's going to say. I don't want that conversation. I must be crazy. And I dismissed it as an experience that I had. As most I've had. Now that's talking about Isaiah chapter 11, which I may actually read in a minute. In fact, I'll read Isaiah chapter 11 right now. And then I'm going to give you some homework if you want to study who Jesse was. Who Jesse was is important. I'm not really getting to the meat of who Jesse is. Who's Jesse is a question that the world needs to answer. And I'm going to tell you why. Like, this is a big deal. The world needs a Jesse right now. You know, it's interesting. Jesse Jackson, a man with flaws, he's done a lot. He's accomplished a lot. You know, Martin Luther King Jr. wasn't here to stand in the way of people that wanted to do bad things. And for all that time, since MLK Jr. left, there's been one man that you got to go through if you want to hurt the black people. And Jesse's been that man. And in that much, good job. And he keeps going back every Saturday to Chicago. He goes back for his thing. Good job, Jess. All right. Isaiah, Romans 15:12 is talking about Isaiah chapter 11. So I'm going to read from Isaiah chapter 11. Now, this is funny because Romans 15:12. Now, if you don't believe Bible, that's fine. But understand, you know, if you're trying to answer questions about the truth in the world, then you'll want an authority. And some people decide, well, the Bible is what I get my truth from because I don't want to make up my own idea. I've never been dead. I don't know what's there. So I'm not going to make up my own ideas. I want something that I can rely on. So they make it on the Bible. So you don't have to rely on the Bible. I think it's a good idea. But this is assuming that some people do. And so you're welcome to listen in as a fly on the wall if that's not you. Okay, so Romans 15:12 and Isaiah chapter 11 verses 10 and a few following talk about the root of Jesse. Now that's a genitive of from and about or genitive. I believe in I have grammatical case teaching, noun case for English. It's a English teaching method I have. I talk about that over at write.pink at pinkwrite.com. Okay, that's another thing. This is genitive. What does it mean? The root of Jesse. Okay, of, that can mean different things. It can mean the root that belongs to Jesse. It can mean the root which is Jesse. It can mean the root that comes from Jesse. It can mean a lot of different things. Okay, what does that mean? The root of Jesse. Now, a lot of people say, well, the root of Jesse, that's Jesus. Hold on. The root of Jesse, Isaiah 11:10, Romans 15:12, quoting Isaiah 11:10. The root of Jesse is Jesus? So you're telling me that the trunk of the tree grows from the leaves? That the root of the tree comes from the fruit hanging on the branches? I have a problem with that. As I understand it, the tree grows from the root. So if the root, we're talking about the root of Jesse. If we're talking about Jesse or David, we'll say the root of Jesus, who is Jesse. That makes sense. But the root of Jesse? That's weird language. If the Bible's trying to say, yeah, we're talking about how David came and from David we get Jesus and Jesus is the man, then saying the root of Jesse is a really roundabout, scenic route, detour way of saying that. Now, if you're a normal person, and you know, a normal person, is there such a thing? If you're a normal person, you know, maybe that's interesting. That you know, you get my point. If you're a super smart Bible genius who studied Bible in college and after, well, you also kind of get my point, and you know that there's something to this. This is very strange language to say the root of Jesse based on what people say that means. We'll talking about Jesus. What? Jesus doesn't sit on the throne of Jesse. He sits on the throne of David. Why are we talking about Jesse? Okay, so Isaiah 11. Romans 15:12 quotes in its New Testament way Isaiah 11 verse 10 and following. What if the root of Jesse, just what if, we're talking about some root of Jesse the same way that the last verse in the Old Testament, Malachi, talks about how I'm going to send Elijah? What if there's something, I mean, this is messianic. We're talking about the future. It's a messianic, we're talking about Messiah. I'm sending Elijah. That's because John the Baptist helped the Messiah. So that's not talking about Jesus, it's talking about someone who helps Jesus. It's still messianic. This is similar. Bible has so many layers of meaning. What if the root of Jesse is talking about the soul of Jesse that's born more than once? Just what if? Or it's a different soul, but it's the idea of Jesse. Some idea. What if, whatever it means, everyone gets one life or maybe they get many. However much the Old Testament saying, I am sending Elijah, was indeed talking about John the Baptist somehow, some way. What if in that same somehow, some way, this is talking about me? In that day, the root of Jesse, who shall stand as a signal for the peoples, of him shall the nations inquire, and his resting place shall be glorious. In that day, the Lord will extend his hand yet a second time to recover the remnant that remains of his people. And then he lists several countries around the world. He will raise, verse 12, he will raise a signal for the nations and will assemble the banished of Israel and gather the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. All right, I skipped over some words. Not because I want to change the Bible. I never said I'm complete. See, so the Sunday people are getting all angry because I skipped Syria and Egypt and Pathros and Cush. I skipped some of these cities. I don't want to be complicated and boring, and you can read that yourself because I told you that that's Isaiah 11:10. But the Sunday people will get mad. They'll find some way to fight. I'm telling you, I know them. I used to be one. All right. I quoted that passage much more accurately than Paul did in Romans 15:12. Okay, I'm supposed to tell you, inasmuch as John the Baptist was Elijah, according to the end of the Old Testament, the last verse, I'm sending Elijah, I am, in that same way, Jesse. Whatever that means, and whatever that means, I don't care. I know my priorities. And my priorities are to finish what Jesse of the Old Testament started. And that's what I mean when I talk about Jesse. I said previously that when I was about 10 or 11, I had this encounter reading Romans 15:12. I still remember where I was in my bedroom, looking at that going, wow, that's me, but that what a crazy idea. Interestingly, both of my parents, my mother a Christian, my father a proud atheist at the time, wanted to name me Andrew when I was on the way. But at the last minute, out of nowhere, this name came to both of them, Jesse. What the heck? There's no Jesse in a family. There's no Jesse that they knew, just Jesse. And it was there, and they couldn't resist it. And they couldn't name me Andrew like they wanted. So posthumously, my mother named one of her miscarried babies Andrew. Andy. And the other one Mandy. If I was a girl, I was going to be a Mandy. But they named me Jesse. Jesse just came to me in many ways. Okay. All right. I'm done talking about priorities. I'm finished. Closing that. Thank you. And I'm done talking about multiple lives. Finished with that. Thank you. Closing that. Thank you. And I'm now going to talk about Jesse. Who is Jesse? We're at 30 minutes. Who is Jesse? Who is Jesse of the Old Testament? Who am I today? What am I supposed to be doing here today? I will very quickly tell you where you can do your Bible homework. I'm not going to read it for you. You want to read about Jesse? 1 Samuel 16 and 17. In 17, it calls Jesse an Ephrathite. Now, some people take this to say that, Ephrathite means he's from Ephraim, an immigrant to Judah. Judah was a tribe in place. Ephraim was a tribe in place. And like a province. And so because Jesse is called an Ephrathite, that means that he was therefore an immigrant from Ephraim to Judah, and he wasn't really from Judah. And since the Bible says that Jesse and David are from the tribe of Judah, the Bible therefore is contradicting itself, and we don't need to listen to the Bible because it's fake. Okay, wrong. An Ephrathite was another name for someone from Bethlehem. Bethlehem, the city of David. God. That's where Jesus was born. I mean, God kind of likes that place. And so I think Bethlehem's about bread, the name, and Ephrathite is about fruit. So there you've got the bread and the wine. You know, anyhow. So people who are from Bethlehem were affectionately called Ephrathites, kind of like how people from New Zealand are called Kiwis. It doesn't mean that they're from two countries, a country called Kiwi and a country called New Zealand. Okay. And Aussies are from Australia. Does that mean that there's a country called Aussie? Aussie is Australia. Okay. It's also called Down Under. There's 3 names. Does that mean there's 3 countries? Okay. This is how to understand Bible correctly if you're curious. Okay. You got to know your stuff. Jesse's called an Ephrathite because that's what they called people from Bethlehem. Jesse's from Judah, purely and simply. Jesse was a descendant from Ruth. Ruth was this love story. A foreign girl came in, married someone from Judah. He died. His father died. Her sister-in-law's husband died. And so it's these ladies, this mother and her 2 daughter-in-laws all alone. And her husband's cousin eventually marries her. And they had a son, Obed, and he had a son, Jesse. And he had a son, David, the boy who killed Goliath and became king. And Jesus is from David's family, David's line. Jesse grew up in a time where Israel didn't have a king. Saul was the first king. Jesse was not a young father. He was an old father. He was well grown up. We know this. There is a genealogy about Jesse in 1 Chronicles chapter 2, verses 12 through 17. Jesse had 7 sons and 2 daughters. Also is listed one of his sons-in-law. In 1 Samuel 16, Samuel, who was the judge of that time, he was the Gideon, he was the Samson, he was the Deborah of that day. He shows up in Bethlehem. There's no government. There's no king. Well, until Saul, but that was very, very recent. So the elders, not city council, not prince of the city, the elders of this non-government city come out, scared, shaking in their boots, because the Samson, the Gideon, the Deborah of the day, Samuel, the prophet, also kind of like Moses in a sense, is there, and they're freaked out. Is he going to torch the city? Why's the judge here? And he says, it's all good. Happy, just want to sacrifice. Call Jesse and his 7 sons, because everyone knows Jesse has 7 sons. So Jesse shows up with 7 sons. And the Lord tells Samuel, nope, none of these can be king. And Samuel's like, well, is there someone else we could talk to? And it's like, you have 7 sons. Is this all of them? I see 7. Jesse says, one of the 2 times Jesse speaks in the Bible, he says, literally word for word, there's the littlest one, David, but look, he's out watching the sheep. Word for word, that's what he says. And that's my theatrical interpretation. He literally says, look. And he doesn't tell Samuel to look because Samuel isn't looking. He's saying that because them sound like fighting words. Jesse didn't like David. He didn't like David so much that when the prophet, the judge Samuel came to town and scared the elders of the city, and Jesse's supposed to bring his 7 sons, he brought out 7, but one, that doesn't mean that he had 8 sons, these 7 plus David. He brought out his son-in-law that was listed in 1 Chronicles chapter 2, I think. And you hear that from how badly he talks about David. Because he was scared of Samuel, but he hated David more. And he's trying to pull a fast one to make it look like there's 7. Brought out his son-in-law. Yeah, there's 7. But David? Look, he's out watching the sheep. Nice guy, huh? Way to believe in your son, Jess. Next time Jesse talks is 1 Samuel chapter 17. Completely different. All right, David, your brothers are out dealing with that giant idiot Goliath. Here's food for your brothers. Here's some cheese for the captains of the military. Bring back a word from them and bring back a token. Find out if they're okay and bring back something that they would have, something that belongs to them. Why would Jesse say that? Jesse knows his sons need food. He's giving them food. He's sending cheese for the captains. That's cool, good stuff. Cheese has protein. These are soldier guys. Cheese has the fat. This is the good stuff. And he's being friendly and making the whole military like him. That's diplomacy. That's the father of a king. Why does Jesse know to do all this? Because he grew up in a time with no government. And when he was a boy, the judge was probably Eli. Remember the priest? Samuel was a little boy, the priest. Samuel, Samuel. And he runs to Eli. What? And Eli figures out God's calling him and finally says, okay, say, yes, Lord, your servant's listening. And so Samuel, yes, Lord, your servant's listening. Remember that? Eli was the judge before Samuel. So Jesse grew up with Eli as the judge, and then he knew Samuel as the judge when Israel's running itself with nothing but a judge. That's it, no government. And so he knew how to be the government, just like pioneers in the West knew how to be the police. Jesse knew how to govern. He grew up. His Bible was Genesis and Moses. That was it. And maybe Joshua. That was it. That was his Bible. Plus stories, probably not written yet, about Samson and Gideon. That's all Jesse knew. And he knew Eli. And he knew Samuel. And he knew how to be his own government. It was a government of, for, and by the people. He got that idea. And so he tells it to David. Now, why does he tell David, bring back a token, some item from your brothers? If David brings back a token from their brothers, then Jesse knows that David didn't run off and eat the food all by himself and come back and lie about talking to them. Second of all, his brothers, and neither his brothers nor anyone else can say, oh, David didn't give us stuff. Well, what do you mean? Well, here's your knife that you don't use that David brought back from you. David did talk to you. So that's accountability. And it's proof, it's defense for David. Jesse was a sharp cookie. He knew government. And David didn't ask him why he's supposed to bring back a token. David gets this. That's why David made an awesome king. He knew how to run a country. He needed to grow and learn, just Judah for a while, then later Israel. But David grew up in a house that knew how basic government function stuff works. Okay. David gets to his brothers. He didn't bring the food yet because he just arrived. The food is still with the baggage keeper. And so his brothers don't have evidence that he came from his father bringing food. And he finds out about this Goliath thing. He's like, who is this guy? Why are you guys letting this guy push everyone around? You kill him, you get a big reward. I know that God can kill that guy. God's with us. And what do his brothers say? 1 Samuel chapter 17. Say, look, runt, you kid, look, you just came here to watch the battle. Go back home. That's what they say. And then David says, now what have I done? God's with us. And then he asks other soldiers, not his brothers, and they treat him just like his brothers did. Copycat. Why do people treat David this way? Because his father did. That's sensible to believe because that's how his father talks about him to Samuel, who scared the city elders when he showed up. David was treated badly, and the only person that respected David and took him seriously was the king that he was playing the harp for. Went to the king. Look, king, lion attacked me. I grabbed his beard, his mane, and killed him. Bear attacked me. I killed him. I know how to kill lions and bears. I can kill this tiger, so to speak. I can deal with this giant. And Saul, the evil, wicked Saul, knew this. God be with you, boy. Go. You want my armor? No, it doesn't fit, Your Majesty. Okay, just... You are like Naruto, David. You are the most surprising ninja ever. Go knock him dead. And only a king could see the potential in David. Not long after, I have to imagine that Jesse was feeling bad. Jesse was not stupid. His son was becoming king. His son was anointed king. He was becoming king. He was respected by the king. And this evil King Saul respected his own son more than he respected his own son. And Jesse's not stupid. He saw that. Now, I'm not here to talk about multiple lifetimes anymore. We covered that in the first 3 minutes. I'll tell you this. Whatever Elijah was to John the Baptist, Jesse, David's father, was to me. I was born with this instinct that everyone has potential like it was some emotional wound of a past lifetime. I would never doubt the craziest student, the craziest kid in the classroom. I believed in the potential of everybody. Like my life depended on it. Like it was some hard lesson I'd learned in a previous life. But I've not known how to deal with them, what to do, how to treat them respectfully. Because these kids, these brat, sassy mouth Josephs telling their dreams of their brothers, making them angry, in the younger years. They've got to learn stuff. They've got great potential, but there are some things to learn. They got to learn how to save it and control and go to the bathroom. They got to learn how to tie their shoes. There are things to learn, but they still have potential. Those two are not in contradiction, but it's so hard to get them right. I'm not a parent. Not in this lifetime anyway. But I deal with a lot of little Davids. I'm dealing with one in Taiwan right now. Love the kid to death. Very frustrating, but he's not the problem. I am. So if you're a parent, teacher, mentor, whatever, and a leader, manager, supervisor, you're dealing with maybe a pastor who's one of the good ones. You're dealing with little Davids that are annoying. In my various teachings here and there, I'm going to talk more about how to deal with them. Basically, what I've learned through teaching piano, through tutoring and patience and leadership, it's like potty training. First, you clean up their poop, get them to a point, and then you teach them to clean up their poop themselves. When it's time to do homework and they don't pay attention, you're young, we're talking 4 to 11 years old. You literally stand behind them the whole time they're doing their homework at home as a parent. You've got to do this. Or as a tutor, whatever. Okay, all right, do the next one. Okay, 4 times 6. Okay, you don't know the answer here. I'll go get the counting blocks for you. I'll go get the beads for you. Okay, go ahead, work it out. Nope, don't look outside the tree. This right here, you can do it. You got it. Okay, you got the answer. Now write it down. Okay, don't wait. Go on to the next one. You can do it. You've got to help them do their homework. Only then can they learn to do their homework by themselves. But if you just sit there and let them fail and yell at them and make them feel bad, it'll never go anywhere, ever. Never, never. They'll just get old, be losers, and then feel bad that they were not respectful, and that'll be the end of their story. You've got to help them do it, and only then after they can learn themselves, or with your help, to learn to do it themselves. It's like dealing with the poop. You've got to clean their poop for them, then teach them to clean their own poop. You've got to help them do their homework, and then they will learn to do their homework on their own. Don't lecture, don't yell, just help them go through it. Watching their homework get done with you standing behind them will show them how it's done, and then they'll do it on their own. And it's the same with responsibility. Waking up from an alarm clock. My mother told me, Jesse, you're 6 years old. Tomorrow you're going to school. I am not waking you up. You have an alarm clock your grandmother gave you. If you don't wake up from it, you'll miss school. You've got to listen to that thing when it goes off, because I'm not helping you. She told me about that. She talked with me. She gave me the alarm clock. She explained to me how it works. And then she let me do it. High school, went to my friend's house, stayed over, one night. Like 5 or 6 alarm clocks are going off in his bedroom. His parents come and turn the lights on, start yelling. I'm like, the kid's got to wake up the alarm clock himself, but you got to give it to him, explain him what it is. And they just kept waking him up with the alarm clock, and he couldn't hear an alarm clock. So that's how to teach alarm clocks. I know because my mom got it right. There's a part where you've got to tell them, and you got a part where you got to let them do it themselves, and you've got to prevent disaster, but not help so much that you hurt it. The birds have to hatch out the eggs themselves. Right now I'm dealing with someone, like he's got some jobs to do, but he's tired and totally stressed out from being yelled at, and he can't think. And I'm not yelling at him. I'm not lecturing him. I'm just calling, saying, hey, you're supposed to deliver those shoes? Okay, bring the shoes to me. I'll deliver them for you. So he's done some work, and it's getting done, and he's watching. How do you potty train a dog? You don't beat him with a newspaper. They know what bad dog means. He poops on the carpet. Bring the dog over. Point at the turd. Say, no. Get a tissue, pick up the turd. Go outside with the dog, set it in the grass or wherever where you'd like it, or in the poop box, inside that, wherever, in the toilet, whatever you're teaching the dog to put it. Set it down and say, good dog. And the dog sees and understands, and that's the fastest, most effective way to potty train a dog. Do it, and then they do it themselves. That is grace. That's what Jesus does for us. It's got to get done. He makes sure that we do the essential parts, but he's there to carry us the rest of the way while we learn and grow up. And he does it without lecturing or finding fault. And so many times in the Bible, you see Jesus as an amazing teacher. This is the lesson I have recently learned up through yesterday. I got it. It's working. These kids I'm dealing with are actually feeling loved for the first time. I've figured out not just how to believe in the potential of the young Davids. I've learned how to actually help, how to be with them, how to live with them, how to be a benefit. Not fix them, but how to be correctly, how to be, what to do or whatever. Inasmuch as John the Baptist was Elijah, specifically from Malachi, I'm sending Elijah. Just the same, so much am I, Jesse, King David's father. He learned how to not despise the oddball in their youthfulness. I have learned how to be with people that I know not to despise. And I'm here to raise up a generation of giant killers who will establish a kingdom that will endure forever. Who am I? I'm Jesse. That's what I'm doing.